Today, we are going to return to the regional power rankings. It has been quite a while since I have done these regional power rankings, and quite a few things have changed, and I think some of them are pretty hard. Today, we're going to do EMEA and Pacific. Tomorrow, we'll do Americas, and China. But yeah, let's just dive into it. Let's start with EMEA. And so, here are our teams in EMEA. And, well, we got Apex at the end here, and I think that's where they'll stay. We'll start bottom to top, but we might end up doing the top and then kind of the middle, because as you'll see, the middle, I think, is going to be quite difficult. But Apex, I think, definitely down at the bottom. Now, other teams that I think deserve to be down there, I think the debate for next, so 11th place next to Apex, is probably between Foot and Na'Vi. Now, Foot were horrendous in their game versus Vitality. They truly were playing exceptionally bad. Na'Vi as well, I don't think were particularly great against Liquid. I have a little bit more hope for Foot. I mean, you know, both these teams have won a game, but Na'Vi's was against Apex. I have a little bit more hope for Foot, so even though they were truly horrendous against Vitality, and I understand that, I still think that the player quality is good enough, or maybe a bit better than Na'Vi overall. Actually, that's pretty close, but I'd maybe give the slight edge to Foot, so I'm going to go for that. But both those teams not playing very well. Then it gets very, very difficult as to who should be next. This is where it gets extremely tough, in my opinion. So now I think it's actually easier to just go and talk about the top three. Because the top three, I think, is very obvious, right? It's these three in some order. And what order would I personally put them in? Well, Team Liquid are playing Fnatic, you know, in not this week, but next week. So we will get an answer somewhat to that question. For what I have seen personally so far from these three teams, I would probably say Fnatic 1, Liquid 2, Heretics 3. The reason I've gone for this order, and really, I think you could maybe even argue that Liquid might be 1. Like, it's getting close. The reason I think Heretics 3 is, you know, they very easily could have lost to Gentlemates. And if Gentlemates would have 2-0 Team Heretics, none of you would argue that Heretics should be 1 or 2. I think Heretics obviously can improve, and they're definitely there is a definite tier gap here. Don't get me wrong. Heretics are definitely in the top 3. Don't worry about that. But I think that right now, you know, they're still figuring some things out, and Liquid and Fnatic, I think, a little bit ahead of them, but it wouldn't surprise me by the time we got to, you know, the end of stage 2 here, that if Heretics were even number 1, right? Really wouldn't surprise me. But those three, definitely the top 3. This is where it gets difficult, right? Because, again, if I was truly ranking all of these teams, I would say all of these teams could be anywhere. And I think you really could put them truly in any order. There's so many difficult teams to rank here, right? In terms of what you actually think about them. Like BBL have been consistent the entire year, but now are 0-2 and aren't doing so well. Giants have come out of nowhere and are kind of 2-0 and, you know, are doing pretty well, but maybe it's, you know, not the most convincing 2-0. You know, and maybe this isn't a team that we think, you know, people think are going to go, you know, crazy. Karmine Corp played a good game against Fnatic and lost, and then played an awful game against Apex and won. So what do you do with that? Koi have had two very difficult games against, you know, Fnatic and Liquid, and have showed some promise, but it is also Koi. Gentlemates definitely should have beaten Team Heretics. They definitely should have won their first game as well, have shown a ton of promise, but they can never win a game. And Vitality had a very disappointing week 1. It was like, this team is cooked. And then a very resurgent week 2. And it's like, oh, this team might be back. So all of these teams, literally every single team, I think you could put in every position. I think you could make an argument for every single one of these teams in literally every position from here on in. Maybe with the exception of Koi not being like super, super high. But certainly probably up to like 7 or 6, I think you could argue for Koi. So this is extremely difficult separating these 6 right now. I'm just going to go off what I personally feel. And overall, I am going to back. I know that BBL just lost to Giants. It was close though, right? It was close. I am still going to just about back them and put them in 4. Even though they're 0-2. I know, that's kind of crazy. Oh man, this is so tough. Gentlemates can't close out games. They just can't do it. So I don't want to put them down there, but they literally can't do it. And again, I do want to make clear there is a tier gap between Team Heretics. There's probably no tier gap, you know, until, I mean, maybe even after Na'Vi, to be honest. Maybe it's just Apex, who honestly almost beat KC. So this is the problem with this region. It is all so close. I'm going to go I'm actually going to go Vitality next. I think that Durka and Les are good enough. I'm actually going to put Vitality next. Then I'm going to go for... See, I don't trust Giants myself. I don't trust Giants myself. And I think Koi will beat KC. I think Koi are going to beat KC. I don't trust Giants. But I can't put Giants like in 8 or 9, can I? Can I put Calming Core in 8 or 9? I'm going to... Look, this is probably the thing that will get the least of you riled up. So I'm actually going to go Mates, KC, Giants, Koi. Well, you'll get riled up about Koi. But Koi is my team. And I think they're going to beat Calming Core. I think they've shown enough proficiency to beat Calming Core. And I believe that that will happen. And I'm actually going to flip those two as well. I'm going to put Giants in 8th, which feels very harsh because they've won 2 games and they just beat BBL. But again, I do want to point out, that, again, that all of these teams are very, very close. And honestly, Mates, you very could well argue that they should be 5th. And if they could just win a round and get it to 13, then they would be one of the better teams in the EMEA. But they haven't done it, so I'm going to stick them in 9. Okay, and now let's talk about Pacific. So Pacific, I think, at the bottom... It's fairly easy. It's Zeta Division, I think, have to go there in 12th place. I think in 11th place, there is a bit of a debate. I think for right now, you probably have to put Boom there. But that is a bit of a debate, and you could argue other ways. I think... Then in 10th, despite the fact they beat Global, I mean, I think it's between Secret and Boom for 11th, basically. I'm going to go Secret, then Boom, I guess, but... you could easily, you know, swap them around and it'd be fine, I think. Then probably you're looking, I think, at these two next in Nongshim and Global. Again, probably these two teams play each other this week, so whoever you've predded for that, I think you put one up and one down. I've predded Global, so I'm going to put Global, but if you wanted to put this the other way around, I think that's absolutely fine. But I think that's pretty close, and, you know, whoever wins that game will probably scrape into the playoffs, and whoever loses that game... probably, you know, won't make the playoffs, essentially. So yeah, that makes sense that whoever wins that will probably be 8th. Then moving up, we're probably looking at Talon and DFM next. Now, DFM did manage to beat Talon, and I understand that. I personally think if Talon and DFM play 10 times, Talon are an inconsistent team, and sometimes, you know, pretty much anyone could beat them on their bad days, and they could, you know, pretty much beat anyone on their good days. I think the overall, if those two teams played 10 times, I think Talon would still, even though I know DFM won, I think it might be like 6-4 Talon. And so I personally am still going to put Talon above DFM. I can understand DFM just beat Talon. If you wanted to put DFM ahead of Talon, that's fine. This is a power rankings though, not just a standings thing. So I personally think that Talon overall are still a better team. And then you've got this top 5, right? And this has to kind of be the top 5. And these... Personally, in my opinion, I think that 4 of these 5 teams just will go to champs. 4 of these teams will simply be the teams that go. These are the teams that are very close on champ points, by the way, as well. So it's all very close between everyone here. I think if you were ranking this, I mean, Paper Rex are the only team that haven't lost a game. So I think you would probably have to put them in number 1. I think that's fair. Then between these 4, I think, again, you could make an argument really for quite a few of them because DRX look very good against Secret. Gen G perhaps have been the most consistent of these 4, I would say. RRQ are looking very resurgent, and T1 as well are looking quite resurgent. So this is a very, very tough ranking from here on out in terms of where you're going to put them. I'm going to probably put, again, I know that they actually lost to RRQ, but I am going to put Gen G in 2nd. Just for that kind of like overall trust. Again, I think this is where most people would probably have them. Then between these 3, though, I think you would get a lot of variety. For me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put RRQ 3rd and T1 in 4th and DRX 5th. The reason for that is I think that RRQ, I just have really like, I just think it's going to click. I think they're going to find themselves again and be a very good team. And I really like the look of some of the things they were doing. T1, I think, yeah, are looking on the upswing. And again, there probably is a bit of a tier gap here from DRX. Like, I do think that DRX could easily beat really any of these teams, to be honest. This isn't a knock on DRX. But I do think that I would trust RRQ and maybe T1 overall just a little bit more right now. So those are my power rankings. We will do Americas and China tomorrow, as I said. Let me know what you thought in the comments down below. I think the EMEA one, don't flame me too hard because I think it's very, very difficult to separate those EMEA teams.